Hi, everyone, and welcome to this month's live Q&A here on the Bernard Alvarez channel. Of course, I'm Bernard Alvarez, and throughout the month, you all have been sending me questions, and I've been adding them to my list. So today we're going to be answering some of the questions that you have been sending me. I'm getting little notes here. This is a live thing, so it's going to be very casual. Don't expect perfection. I keep getting little pop-up notes with the program that we're using. I guess they want me to turn off Facebook or something. I don't know. Anyway, so welcome everybody. I'm so glad to be here again, and I hope the sound is okay. I decided not to use my HD microphone, so I'm just using the camera mic, and I hope that that's not going to be too much of an issue. They're giving me another note. Maybe I should change. Nope. Okay. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started with the very first question that you all have sent me. And this is a really important and a very, very good question. It's not even a question. It's an observation. Someone wrote, I find it challenging and discouraging, this awakening that's happening within me. I feel like it's hard to find other like-minded people. And the reality of it is your awakening process is your own. It's individual. When we begin this awakening process, it's almost as if the universe and our higher selves have made this agreement that your awakening will happen at the particular speed that is suitable for you. You will be attracted to the issues that are suitable for you. You will be surrounded by the people or not by the people that are suitable for you. You'll create the experiences that are suitable for you. So when I hear that it's hard to find like-minded people, I have to ask, what is meant by that? Are you meaning that you don't find people that are going through the awakening process? Or are you not finding people that are going through the aspect of the awakening process that you're going through? Let me break this down a little bit. When we go through the awakening process, and actually when I went through the awakening process, so this is my path and what happened with me. My awakening started back in my early 20s during my shamanic vision quest, and I kind of got the whole picture, and I wasn't quite ready for that information. So in the early 2000s, I started awakening to the geopolitical aspect of what's happening on the world. You know, the global elite, the money system, war, famine, you know, social programming, etc. For lack of a better term, what many people these days are calling the New World Order or the Illuminati. Those two terms I have now moved into the back burner. But basically, it's the illusion of what this world is like today. And I was very angry. And when I realized that I had been living in this, for lack of a better term, peer-induced and or media-induced and or religion-induced or family-induced illusion of what my life was, and I saw through that illusion, I was outraged. I was outraged at the money system. I was outraged at the political system. And I was a very angry, for lack of a better term, an angry truther. So that was my phase probably in the mid-2000s. I was very, and the Fed, very pro-Ron Paul. You know, America, Freedom of Fascism was a fantastic movie. Everybody should watch that anyway. It's very interesting. But that's the level I was at that point. And later on, I moved into the law of attraction. I was very much involved in the law of attraction and what that meant, the movie The Secret and Abraham Hicks and the information that was coming to me there. Now I feel like I've come to myself in that my interest is in expanding human consciousness. My connection and alignment with the awakening is human consciousness, expanding it. What can we do to tap the infinite possibilities of human consciousness so that we can create this whole, well, not create because it's already created, but align with the new paradigm that we all seem to be speaking of. So when you're saying to yourself, I'm having a hard time finding like-minded people, what I can say to that is I'm in the same boat. We all are in the same boat. Sometimes it's a very singular path, but the thing is that there are probably people around you that are interested in some of what you're interested in. Maybe not everything. Maybe they're not on the same level of the awakening path that you're on, but maybe there are people that are interested in liberal politics or conservative politics or chemtrails or GMOs or consciousness or the law of attraction. Excuse me. So give them a break. Give them a break. I find that when we're feeling alone, it's usually self-imposed. We're never really alone. We have friends that we can talk to on particular levels of consciousness. We can align with them at the different levels of vibrations that they're vibrating on. So don't feel. Actually, I shouldn't say that. If you are feeling it's hard to connect with other like-minded people, that's very true for you. But what I will say is don't cut yourself short. Don't cut yourself off of the resources that are available to you with the people within your family, your friends, etc., etc. Most likely there are common interests there, but you're not seeing them, or maybe you're being a little greedy with how much you want them to think like you, which is coming from ego. Maybe your ego is saying, well, they're not as awakened as I am because they're not interested in what I'm interested in right now. So we need to reel that ego back in and look around and say, wow, well, that friend's interested in ending, chemtrail poisoning, or that friend is interested in expanding consciousness. Maybe they go to festivals and they go to hippie festivals and they like to do art and they're creative. Maybe the other ones are going to marches against Monsanto. You have it. You have it. Look for it. Be aware. Are you the one creating the challenge to connect with other people? Is it your ego? Are there people already there? And if there isn't people there, if it is really that hard to find other like-minded people, look at yourself first. How are you presenting yourself to the public? Are you presenting yourself to new people in an angry way, in a know-it-all fashion, in an egotistical, I'm better than you, I'm more awake than you way? Sometimes it's us. Believe it or not, we can be awakening, but we can become self-pompous, arrogant SOBs as we're awakening, and just put out this air of I'm better than you. In the beginning, when I was starting to awaken, I used that term sheeple a lot. Do you know how offensive that is? How would you like to be called a sheeple? We can use that in any paradigm. Oh, you believe in chemtrails, you're a sheeple. You believe in consciousness, you're a sheeple. It's a very offensive term. So how are you presenting yourself? Are you allowing people to connect with you? And if you're not, maybe that's what we need to ask ourselves. Is the challenge us? Are we making it more challenging? Anyway, that's all I have for that question. We have so many more questions. Let me check in here on YouTube. See who's there. I have like 8 different things going on here. Hi everybody. Now I see the chat. Hi everybody. Hi Triva. Hi Ann. Hi Anna Maria. Tina. Blood Sage. JC. Hi. So glad to see you all here. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat room. And as we go on, let me go ahead and move on to the next question, because I do have a lot of them. And some of you have sent them to me on Facebook, and I promise I'd answer them today. This is a very, very interesting question. I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe, well, I'll just share it with you. I understand that God creates all matter and all energy. You can call it source. Is God going to judge us? That's a very real question. I went through that myself. When I went through my spiritual awakening in my early 20s, and before that, I was raised Catholic. I was a devout Catholic, going to mass every morning before church. I got confirmed, everything. And as I grew older and I began to expand my consciousness, explore my consciousness, I started aligning more with the pagan earth religions and the idea of the divine feminine. And I will say, during those early 20s, I was scared. I was like, well, what if I'm wrong? What if that is the right way? What if that mean God, that this fire and brimstone, is going to judge me? So the question of, is God going to judge us, is a very fair question. My answer is, on the outer level, looking at it objectively, that God, for me, this question is coming from an Abrahamic tradition, through the Abrahamic propaganda that God will judge you at the end of time, at the end of your life, etc., etc., etc. And while I do find that to be very self-defeating, the idea of this God judging us is self-defeating. Well, I will say there is no greater judge than our own higher selves and our own consciousness. So let's approach this question a little bit differently. When we're saying, is God going to judge us? A lot of us are coming from Western programming. A lot of us are coming from going to Sunday school, going to church, etc., etc., etc. We have this concept of sin. And, is God going to judge us at the end of time for the sins that we've committed? You can tell I've just rolled my eyes, right? Sin, in the way that it's perpetuated in today's media, religions, and, propaganda, is not really what I feel the definition of sin ought to be. For me, God, quote unquote, using air quotes, God is our higher self. Our higher self is connected to source, right? So when we're in alignment with our higher self, we are connected to the infinite divine. We are connected to source, God, goddess, whatever it is you want to call it. And it's when we go against what our higher self is telling us, when we go against what that source consciousness through us, moving through us, is guiding us to do. In other words, when you do something, but yet you know better and you do it anyway, that to me is the definition of sin. So is God going to judge us? I feel it's very fair to say that God within will judge us. And what I mean by that, again, coming from the place of the higher self, connected to source consciousness, when we aren't listening to our higher self, we're going to create imbalance in our world. Uh, it's fair to say that when we are in alignment with our higher self and we are motivated through our intuition, through our psychicism, through our connection with higher source consciousness or higher self consciousness, when we act from there, we are being guided. It's an unfolding path. It's unfolding. But when we don't listen to that, when we don't listen to our intuition, when we go against that which we know better, the path begins to close down. So it's no longer unfolding, it's infolding and begins to create obstacle. So that is how I feel God judges. Well, to answer the question, that's how I feel God judges, but it's not in the way that the question is termed, is said, written. God is you. God is your higher self. God is your intuition. So it is your intuition, it's your higher self that judges you and begins to acknowledge there is an imbalance of energy flowing, and therefore you're going to come up through many self-imposed obstacles. And In that, let me say that I don't think that's wrong. I don't. I am one of those people. I used to kid around in my 30s. I used to say, I always shoot myself in the foot. I knew better, but I did it anyway. But it was for me to grow from those experiences. So these experiences that are obstacles, these experiences where the higher self energy and intuition is being cut off, it kind of teaches us a lesson. And if anything, it taught me how important it is for me to allow that source wisdom, that higher self behavior, relationship to grow and to be inspired from my higher self. So sometimes that quote unquote God is judging me, or it's you judging yourself, creating obstacles for you to grow from. So, is it a bad thing? It's uncomfortable. Is it a good thing? You learn from it. So, what can we say from that? Let me come back and say hi to you. Let me see who's here. Do we have any comments on the chat room? Oh, I love this one, and I'm going to answer this right away. Ivy Rain, thank you. That's a great question. The pantheons of the gods and goddesses. That's a wonderful, wonderful question. How do I view them? How do I view the gods and goddesses of the world? I relate to the definition of gods and goddesses in the way that the Kemetic tradition. I've studied and I've been initiated through the Egyptian initiation process, whatever you want to call it. And so a lot of my training camp comes from that. And so I can relate to it like that. And I'm going to go a little bit further after I answer this, but let me say this, is all the pantheons are right. They're all right. The Kemetic people call them netters. And the reason why they call them netters, they didn't see them, and they don't see them, and I don't see them as these deities in the sense that they're individual deities with egos and personalities and whatnot. Humanity had to give them egos, personalities, and stories in order for our archetypal mind to be able to create a certain relationship with them. But what are they? They are merely, and I love the way Patricia Ayan from the Kemet School of Ancient Mysticism says, through the teachings of the Kemetic people, she has stated that there are 360 netters and or gods and goddesses. I don't know, maybe there are more, maybe there are less, but what they are natural occurring vibrations, they're natural occurring energy, whether it be love, whether it be hate, whether it be water, whether it be air, whether it be mother, whether it be father. These are all natural states of being. And if you've studied Carl Jung, he talks about the archetypal mind a lot. So if you have, by all means, pick up a quick book on Amazon or Kindle and read up on Carl Jung's archetypes. He's done a great job of exploring it in using modern language. They're all there. It's the same thing with many of the old African deities as well. Unfortunately, now I'll get into this. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this. Is that while there are faces put on natural energies, again going back to love, thunder, rain, anger, war, etc. What can happen, and I'll say it like this: I define gods and goddesses in three ways. Either they are a natural force, like we said, a netter, a natural energy, a natural vibration, a natural universal vibration that we put a name to, we've ascribed a name, a story, and personality to in order so we can connect with that vibration. Or they are human created entities and or thought forms and or golems. In other words, if you see something. Let's say a great example is you see a rock, and there's this rock next to a river, and the rock is overhanging the river a little bit. It's a big rock. It's about 20 feet tall, and it overhangs the river. And you see this rock, and you notice that there's grass growing underneath the rock where it's providing shade. But there's nothing else around. There's nothing else around. Let's say you're in a desert or something, and there's grass growing. So if there's grass growing, what happens? Suddenly the animals are coming to eat. So you bring your friend back to this rock, and they see this rock providing shade with plants growing up underneath it and animals coming to eat and drink the water in the shade from the hot sun. And you say, wow, this is a very special rock. And they go back and they bring their friends and they bring their friends. And all of a sudden, this rock becomes a god. The same thing can be said with personalities. The same thing can be said with human beings or ideas of human beings. We create these energy entities, and I mean no offense by this. I feel that some of the Abrahamic versions of Yahweh or God is a construct of human energy entity. So gods are either netters or natural forces, or they are things that we've constructed. They're psychological construct that have been given life because of all love and energy we're giving to them. So they become these real, again, golems, for lack of a better term. And then lastly, they're real transdimensional entities. They are real entities. They are real things. Maybe, for all we know, the goddess Sept, Isis, is an entity from the Pleiades, or Sirius. The Egyptians worship Sirius. Maybe the whole ancient alien definition is real, and these transdimensional entities came to visit ancient man and gave them information, and because of that, they were begun to be worshipped. So, who knows? Again, gods and goddesses, natural forces, netters, psychological energetic constructs, or transdimensional entities. They're all real. They're all real. It's our relationship and how we interact with them that really matters. And if anything, we must remember that humanity, you as a human being, are divine in your own self. You are connected to source consciousness. The energy that created the natural forces that created the netters, the gods and goddesses, the natural forces that psychologically motivated human beings to create these golem-type entities, the natural energy that created these transdimensional entities is also within you. It's all source consciousness. It's all the universe becoming conscious of itself. No better and no worse. Some are more helpful, some are more negative. So you are a God. Don't be humble unto the God within. Don't be humble to any God without. You have it all within you. You do. So let me answer another question that was emailed to me. I just want to make sure I answer these 4 questions that were sent to me. I see your questions on the chat, and I'm going to try. I saw one there that I want to get to. Where do we start? And I'll get to that in just a minute. This one is very interesting, and I just want to get this one out of the way because it's a very interesting one. It deals with human behavior and characteristic, and I feel it needs to be spoken of now in our age of political correctness. So, I would be interested to hear your view on adult bullying. How does it affect people mentally, physically, spiritually? How do we cope with the matters, or do we fight back? Let me know your opinion, etc., etc. Well, to me, the definition of bullying, and I'm saying this outside of the construct of the American politically correct system. I know we have a lot of anti-bullying campaigns for kids and LGBT, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And while I feel bullying is unacceptable, it's completely unacceptable. I say it within the book of one, and it's my book, and no, I don't memorize all the passages, but there is a passage in the book of one that says when you're imposing fear on another person, you're releasing evil. Bullying is imposing fear on another human being. It's oppressing them from expressing themselves genuinely. So I don't care if you're LGBT, I don't care if you're conservative, I don't care if you're liberal, I don't care if you're a Christian, I don't care if you're spiritual, pagan, consciousness, awakening, enlightened being. When you impose your beliefs on another individual, when you make an individual feel ashamed of what they are feeling, you're imposing your belief system on them. You are not allowing them to progress on their own personal path. And the same can be said for liberals against conservatives. I was one that used to make fun of conservatives back in the 2000s. Actually, I was a conservative, but I still made fun of them. But we must respect each other's space. Now, if your space, don't get me wrong, if your space is trying to oppress my space, I'm going to push back. In other words, well, I'll just give you a 3D 21st century example. When a right-wing conservative is saying that gay people can't get married, you're pushing your ideas on the equality and the genuineness of human beings who have the same rights that you do. So yes, I feel there's an issue there and that needs to be pushed back. That's bullying. When you're oppressing someone else's human right to express themselves and to live with the same rights that you live with, that's bullying. Doesn't matter. And it goes back to the other way around too. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of my friends and fans are liberals. Liberals are just as mean to conservatives. So making fun of conservatives and calling them rednecks and all, that's not right either. That's a form of bullying. So how do we handle that? They said, do we fight back? We fight back by, for lack of a better term, I always fall back to, and this is probably a cop-out, but it seems to be the best one for me. I fall back to the Wiccan Reed. Harm done, do what you will. If they're harming me, and they're not letting me do what I will, and I'm not harming anybody, I'm going to push back. And I'm going to say, shame on you for not letting me be genuine. I'm not hurting anybody. And if I'm not hurting anybody, including myself, I have the right to do as I please. And you have no right to impose your religious, political, national, or bigoted, or liberal beliefs on me. If I'm not hurting anybody, I have the right to be genuine. So am I going to fight back? Yes. How do we fight back? In the native traditions, there has always been a tradition of shaming people. They exile them, they kick them out of the tribe, or they shame them. That's where that whole Scarlet Letter thing came from. That was kind of a native thing, quite honestly. I just expose them for being the bigot that they are, for being the oppressor that they are. I do my best to say, this person is stepping on my human rights. And you make a big fuss, and you make a big stink, and you speak up and say, this person is trying to stop me from being who I am. This company, this corporation, this religion, this YouTube channel, this social media, whatever it might be. How do we fight back? We fight back by exposing the bullying. We fight back by exposing the oppression. But remember, you have no right to fight back. If they are not oppressing your genuine beliefs that are harming no one, if you're harming someone through your beliefs, then they have every right to bully you. They have every right to oppress you. They have every right to shame you. And I make no apologies for this belief. I make no apologies. Everyone has the right to grow, to be genuine, and to expand their consciousness as they see fit. That is a part of being awakened. And in this world, it's really hard. So the next thing I know, we're going to be seeing a thing for awakened people's rights. Maybe somebody should start a campaign, awakened people's rights. We'll make that politically correct. I want to go back to this question that I saw, and I think it's a really important. Somebody wrote, at the risk of sounding foolish, where do we start? And that's a very fair question. My immediate answer is start meditating, but I know that's not where some people are. I know that. What I feel the best way that we can start, and I'm hoping you mean where can we start in the sense of the path of the awakening, is, if that's a question, I'm going to answer it in that manner. We start by being honest with ourselves. I believe that the path of awakening removes the illusions. It removes the veils. It removes the 3D matrix, the 3D constructs. It removes all prejudice. It removes all propaganda and programming. It's an act of peeling away all that we thought we were, all that we thought the way the world is, how the world is. So honesty is the most important place to start. How do you feel about blank? How do you feel about yourself? Fill in the blank. How do you feel about politics? Fill in the blank. How do you truly feel about religion? Fill in the blank. How do you truly feel about corporations? Fill in the blank. How do you truly feel about expanding your awareness? Fill in the blank. That is where we start. It gives us a basic understanding of where it is we need to start the work in. If we have a certain alignment with politics, then that's where you need to start. You need to start by becoming an activist. You need to start by going to DC and marching with Democracy Spring. If it's consciousness, you need to start meditating. You need to start exploring different avenues of altering your state of consciousness and what consciousness means. So I'm going to keep this short. If when you're starting out and you're looking for a place to start, I'm not going to be cliche and say look within. I'm going to say write it down on a piece of paper. This is how I feel about politics. This is how I feel about religion. This is how I feel about consciousness. This is how I feel about sexuality. This is how I feel. This is how I feel. This is how I feel. Get to know yourself. Be honest with yourself. And whatever is, there's always that little, and I'm sure many of you watching can understand what I mean. There's always that little sand in my shoe when it comes to a specific issue, topic, philosophy that motivates me, that I need to look more into. And there is no one size fits all. The closest thing to one size fits all is be honest with yourself. This path is very personal. This path is individual. While we are striving for unity consciousness, we must remember that we are one facet of that consciousness. We are one awareness of that unity consciousness. We are still individual. So individually, what's that sand in your shoe? What's that telling you? What irks you? What motivates you? What draws you? And be honest with that. I mean, really, really honest. I've heard people say, well, I've always, uh, recently I just had a conversation with someone, I've always wanted to get involved in socialist politics. Okay, talk about out of the box thinking. I've always wanted to be involved in socialist politics. Well, do it. Well, but my friends are Democrats and my family's conservative and they freak out. But is that what your heart is telling you? Is that what your heart is telling you? Is your heart telling you that you want to promote this? Is it going to hurt anybody? No. Is it just a philosophy? Yes. So explore it. You're not hurting anybody. There's nothing taboo in the realm of awakening. And I want to make that very, 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 very clear. This is something that has been needed to be said for quite a long time. Within the awakening path, there is nothing that is taboo. And we need to understand that sexuality, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Religion, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Politics, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Philosophy, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Everything has a little bit of both. Everything is yin and yang. Everything has negative, positive, and positive, negative. Everything. Nothing is taboo. It is a part of the all. So whatever it is that you are drawn, whatever you're feeling in alignment, that is creating the genuine you, that is peeling away a layer of oppression, peeling away a layer of psychological oppression or propaganda. We want to be the genuine essence of who you truly are. You will get so much more done in this lifetime when you are free of those psychological chains. Nothing is taboo. Nothing. Of course, and harm, do what thou wilt. Harm none, do what you will, but nothing is taboo. Nothing. So be honest with yourself. We have about 20 more minutes. I need to take a short break. So please forgive me. I'm going to try to play an ad, but anyway, I will take. I'll be right back. I'm going to take a short break. Just give me like 15, 25, 30 seconds. Okay, we're back. Looking a little shiny. Anyway, let me move on to one other question that was sent to me, and I think you're going to appreciate this. Someone wrote to me about deja vu, and I think that this is a topic that has become so cliche. It's become a cliche, but because it's become cliche, we're not investigating it. And deja vu, in many cases, is a way for your inner self to remind you that either A, you have had an image or vision of this moment prior, or B, this is a split dimensional activity or situation or something that happened. In other words, this could be something that had happened on another timeline and it didn't happen, or this is something that you have foreseen and therefore you're being brought into it. But the question was actually, how come deja vu stops? And that I've never heard. I've never had anyone send me a question like that. So I did want to talk on that for just one moment. We, for me, and when I answer these questions, it's for me. I mean, I am not one to quote people. I'm not one to. I've written maybe 2 research papers in my entire life. I'm not one to footnote people. I go through the experience, and I'll get into that in just a second. But I will say this: when deja vu has stopped for me, when it has stopped for me, deja vu has stopped because I am not aligned with my higher consciousness. It always comes back to that. It always comes back to that. It means that we're not listening. Many lay people, for lack of a better term, many lay people experience deja vu. And that is kind of the intuition screaming at you, giving you a signal, nudging you that you have intuition. So while it might be that we are not connecting with our higher self, it also might be that we are so connected with our higher self that we don't need deja vu anymore, that we are the intuitive that our higher self is nudging us to be. So if deja vu is stopping for you, what I would ask is, do you feel intuitive? Are you aligning with your intuition? Are you listening to your intuition? Or are you just so disconnected with the realm of higher consciousness and higher self that deja vu has no way, or intuition has no way to nudge you? Unfortunately, that's all I really have for that. But I think that's a very fair question, and I wanted to share that. Oh, I like that. There's a lot of great questions here. I don't even know where to start. Let me see, make sure there's no other background. Someone says, I always feel like something punches my mattress. I do too. And I mean that seriously. And that's actually, it doesn't feel like someone punches my mattress. I feel it's probably my cat that passed away that just likes to walk and pounce on my mattress. So you might want to ask yourself, is a departed pet, perhaps? I don't know how hard they punch it, but if it's not hurting you and it's not negative, I would explore the idea of perhaps it might be a departed pet. Could very easily well be. Isn't that interesting? Wendy. Wendy says she feels a negative presence when she goes to bed at night. She can't put her finger on it. She knows it's terrifying, even wakes her up at night, and we don't know what it is. You're not alone, Wendy. You're not. Honestly, when I go to bed at night, I go right into dream state. And for some reason, I am woken up by that feeling of a negative presence. And it doesn't happen all the time, but let's say it probably happens about once a week, that there's a negative presence there, and it shakes me, and it creates this this terror. If you feel terrorized for just a moment. What I have found, and it's a very simple thing, What I have found is that if I go to bed consciously, now there's, sometimes we're a little tired, we go to bed, we're half asleep, but if we go to bed consciously and we go to bed with the idea that we are protected and that we are surrounded by light, that doesn't happen to me. And if I were to define what it is, all I can say is that when we are shining so bright, when we are light beings, when we are connected with the light, what happens outside at night when the light is bright? What do you attract? You attract bugs. And that's the way I see it. I see that we are these light beings, and because of the fact that we are so bright, all these negative Klingons and confused entities and thought forms and whatnot seem to be drawn to us because either A, they just want to buzz around and explore the light, or B, they're enamored by the light, or C, they just want to freak you out so you can turn the light up so they can go back into their darkness. But it all comes down to the fact that we are very bright. And when we're that bright, you're going to attract negative, lower vibrational beings. And I don't know how many people have gone through that. And actually, I could probably do a whole spiel on the coming out as a light worker to the universe and what that means, and how sometimes a lot of these negative entities will come around. I don't want to go into too long about that because I do want to answer some more questions, but just be aware it's not you. Nothing's trying to attack you. Understand that you're just this very, very bright being. Nobody wants to hurt you. They're either interested, they want to mess with you, they want to play with you. But yes, because of the fact that they're so low vibration, you are probably going to feel a little fear or a little negativity when it comes to that. But yeah, be aware. Be aware. Go to bed that you're bright and that you are safe, and prepare your sleeping quarters mentally, for lack of a better term. Thank you, Bing Bong. Great answer. Great answer. Actually, so I am going to go a little bit further into this. When I was in my 20s, I had the very same thing. And it was constant. It was constant. I constantly had this negative entity around me. It would push me to do negative things, and I gave in. I would see it in my dreams. It would appear to me next to my bed. And finally, someone said to me exactly what Bing Bong says there. Somebody said to me, when the next time that entity comes along, don't be afraid of it. Look at it like a mother looks to a child. Not feel sorry for it, but have compassion, have empathy. This poor thing doesn't know what it's doing. It's trying to find its way through the darkness, through the ethers, etc., etc. And as you embrace it with your consciousness in this manner, give it love and say, you don't need to be here anymore. You're not welcome here. I love you. Now, please, just go. Just go away. And I will tell you, within a day, my entire life changed. Literally changed. That was what put me onto the path of the work that I'm doing today. This was back in the early 2000s. This is what exactly switched my life around for me to be able to do what I'm doing today. But why did it come to me? I feel it was because it was attracted to the light. I didn't quite know what I was doing yet, so therefore I probably had a lot of holes in my aura, for lack of a better term. And because I had so many little holes in my aura, they found a little place to kind of nest and hang out and say, look how bright it is, I want to stick here. But please, give it light, say I love you. It has a right to exist. It does. It has a right to evolve. It doesn't mean, if it means you harm, it's because it doesn't know better. And that takes me on to whole nother topic, but I'm seeing a few more things here. Um, yes, you are. Oh, CDI. So your dog did pass away. Maybe it's your dog jumping on your bed. It could very well be. It could very well be your dog. Um, we got a few more minutes here, and I think I have one more question that was sent to me that I really would like to answer before we go. Now, this one's very interesting. What do I feel about prophecy? Well, if you were around, if you were watching my work during the whole 2012 period, I kind of, you have to question prophecy. I'm sorry. You have to question prophecy. What is the source of the prophecy? Is the source of the prophecy the Bible, which has been rewritten 8,000 times by crazy, egotistical, Middle Ages, Black Ages, Dark Ages men? Is the prophecy Mayan, which might be misconstrued by the Spanish that conquered them, the Catholics that conquered them? Is the prophecy Native American and being translated in this modern day by modern indigenous people? So ask yourself what the source is. Is it even worth paying attention to? I'm just going to acknowledge one particular prophecy, and that is that of the I believe it was the Hopi that talked about the rainbow tribe coming when the earth was dying, when the earth was suffering, and how the rainbow children would come back to the earth to save it and to help it. I believe that's happening. Now, with other prophecies, the death, the doom, the gloom, the end of the world, the four horsemen, which, by the way, can be translated in so many other different ways. Armageddon is actually a beginning. I mean, so most of these prophecies are basically saying there's a new beginning. The old world is dying. There's a new world being born. Many of these prophecies are hopeful when you look at it from an esoteric and metaphysical point of view versus a Western, oh my gosh, my God says it's over. No, it's the beginning. The 2012 prophecy was a great example of that. It was the end of a cycle to begin a new cycle into the light, a cycle of light, of moving into the higher realms of consciousness. As for other prophecies, the only way that I perceive prophecy is that you have to think about who was making the prophecy. What were they doing? What were they under a trance? Were they under a hallucinogen, a psychedelic? I mean, how did they get the prophecy? And I have nothing against any of using any of those things for metaphysical purposes, but perhaps they were just tapping into a timeline. Perhaps and I've had prophecies. I have had prophecies. I talked about it on today's broadcast, where I have had visions of the earth being a certain way and whatnot. And I can't help but feel that it's just one timeline. Maybe you're tapping into a particular timeline. Now, is it happening on another dimension? It might be. That timeline might have split off from your world or your present consciousness, and that timeline is still continuing, over there. But prophecies are too abstract, they're too malleable, they're too indefinite for me to give any credence to. Like I said, the only prophecy that I can align with is the prophecy of the rainbow tribe coming back to the planet to help heal it, because that's what I'm living. That's what I feel I am. That's what I feel you are. That's what I feel all of us that are doing this work are. We are coming back here to shake things up in the way that we can awaken humanity, that we can raise the consciousness of our planet. So all those other prophecies don't mean anything to me. You know, and I'll leave with this. I got about 5 minutes. It'll probably take me that long to finish this thought. I truly feel that I am genuine to my higher self. And what I mean by that is my interest lies in what I am interested in, what I am drawn to, my talks, my shows, the people I surround myself with. It's fluid. It's fluid. If you look at my shows or my videos 3 years ago, they're different. You go back, I've been on here 10 years. Go back 10 years. The videos are completely different. I allow myself to change. I allow myself to move with my evolution. I allow myself to be fluid. Consciousness is fluid. We are fluid spiritual beings. We are not solidified in one particular story. I spoke with someone today where they were explaining their understanding of one particular local thing, local issue, local organization. I'm like, it sounds like you've been telling that story for 20 years. And I didn't say that to them. But we create these stories in our head and we cling to them. And we forget that those stories were that moment. And that moment might have been 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We need to remember we are fluid human beings. Our beliefs are going to change. Our interests are going to change. Our spirit is going to continue to grow if we allow it, if we allow a new story to come into play. How many times have you caught yourself? How many times have you caught yourself not doing something because of something that happened to you in your 20s, in your teens, in elementary school, because your ex-wife did it, because your ex-husband did it, and all of a sudden you're like, cut off. You block the energy. No, that reminds me of this, because my story says that this is what happens. I don't like conservatives. I don't like liberals. I don't like gays. I don't like Buddhists. I know one, and that one represents everything. This call comes back to that being honest. Where do you start? We start by being honest. We start by looking at our story. We start at looking at our fluidity. Are we fluid enough to change the story? Are we fluid enough to allow new information to come in? Is our ego so much in control that we can't change our story? So be honest with yourself. This all comes back to, where do I start? I start by being honest with myself. I start by looking at my story. I start looking at how flexible or unflexible I am to changing my story. How open am I to new experiences? How open am I to new friendships, to new lovers, to new family members? How open am I? How open am I? And that's where we start. Once we align with the possibility, and anything becomes possible. But if we get stuck in the muck, stuck in the same old story that we keep telling ourselves, the same old story that we've become identified with, our personal mythology becomes our own obstacle. Let's let go of that mythology. Let's learn from it. Let's draw strength from it. But let's be open to the amazing infinite possibilities that we have waiting for us, if we're ready to receive them. Well, everyone, it has been such a lovely evening. I love speaking with you, and I cannot wait for next month. I'm not going to say anything. Maybe I'll start doing this every 2 months, but I really love this. I really do. And I thank you. If you want to, for next month, if you have any more questions that I did not get to, you're welcome to send them to me. And this is, I know this is kind of broken. My YouTube live Q&A, please send my questions to my Facebook page. Not my profile, my page, the one with 300,000 followers. If you send them to me there, I put them into a file to be answered on the monthly Q&A. So send me your questions over to my Facebook page, and I will go ahead and do that. Anyway, I thank you. I'm so honored to have so many wonderful friends out there, and I'm so grateful that you're here for me, and I am honored to be here for you. I love you very much. Bye-bye.